Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. This is the City of Sioux Falls City Council meeting dated February 22nd of 2011. We'll start tonight's meeting by introducing you to your City Council. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilors Aguilar.
Here.
Anderson.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Entenmann. Erpenbach.
Here.
Jameson.
Here.
Litz.
Here.
Rolfen.
Here.
Thank you, City Council. We do have 8 members present. We can conduct the city's business. I'd like to start tonight's meeting with an invocation, and a really good friend of mine, Pastor Catherine Timpany of the First Congregational Church, is here to celebrate the evening with us. We'll have Reverend Timpany give the invocation, and then if you would remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, we would appreciate it. Reverend?
I invite you to join me in prayer. Loving Creator, we honor you and we honor all that you have made. Renew the whole world in the image of your love. Give us what we need for today and a hunger to see the whole world fed. Strengthen us for what lies ahead. Heal us from the hurts of the past. Give us courage to follow your call in this moment, for your love is the only power, the only home, the only honor we need in this world and in the world to come. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's meeting. For the people who aren't here, we've got just an awesome crowd of people that care about their city, and it's wonderful to have you all here tonight. We're going to start off with an award that goes to the City of Sioux Falls, and in particular, one of the departments that's working really, really hard for the 160,000 people of Sioux Falls. This is an award that really goes out to the entire community. But it does involve many, many departments. But one in particular that we want to touch on tonight is Public Works. There are so many people that we could recognize. I do want to recognize at least some of the leadership within this group. It includes Bob Capel, Amy Ladonsky, and Dave McElroy. They lead the sustainability efforts for our city. And, of course, Mark Cotter, who didn't want to be recognized. I'm going to recognize him anyway. Mark Cotter also helps lead that charge. These folks care so much about the environment. They care so much about the community, and you're going to find out why we've won this award. I'm going to read the award. It's the 3rd Annual National Environmental Health Association Excellence in Sustainability Award presented to our great city of Sioux Falls. And in fact, why don't you 3 stand up here? Come on, Bob, Amy, David. Congrats. The City of Sioux Falls was awarded the 3rd Annual National Environmental Health Association's Excellence in Sustainability Award in 2010. The award annually recognizes the one organization that is solving environmental challenges by using innovative and environmentally sustainable practices. The award was presented because of Sioux Falls' cross-departmental leadership and established community partners in sustainability. Highlights of departmental projects include, first of all, in Public Works, the Environmental Division for their leadership in providing regulatory and administrative services to ensure the city complies with environmental standards. The Landfill Division for their establishment of the Methane Gas Capture Program, one of the top renewable energy projects nationwide, and for the management of the sustainability program. Our Street and our Fleet Divisions for the use of asphalt recycling equipment and recycling of all auto batteries and waste oil. Our Water Purification Division for their public education programs and water conservation. The Water Reclamation Division for the electrical cogeneration and heat recovery of biogas and biosolids land application program. And then the Public Works team is not alone in this effort. There's other departments as well, such as Parks and Recreation, for their quality management of over 70 public parks and the bike trail system, which significantly contribute to the beauty and health of our community. Planning for the incorporation of sustainable concepts in the Shape Sioux Falls 2035 Comprehensive Plan and Sioux Falls Area Metro for providing access to safe and affordable transportation to the citizens of Sioux Falls and their contribution to reducing CO2 emissions citywide. Gus Schaefer, Senior VP and Public Safety Officer from Underwriters Laboratories, which sponsors the award, commented that Sioux Falls Departments and Sustainability Program implemented activities for energy conservation, waste reduction, recycling, community engagement activities, and so much more. And the program had buy-in from city employees, businesses, and the community, and is unique and multifaceted. For this leadership team, Mark, and others within city government, congratulations on receiving this award. Thank you. It's a beautiful award. I'm not going to pass it around. Well, maybe I will pass it. Our next is for Councilor Litz, and who is doing this? Am I doing this one? If I do this one, I'll start to cry. You never know where life's journey is going to take you. Bob, would you come up? And this is a man who I've known for quite some time, and he is a man that cares so much about so many things. But the one thing that he definitely cares about is this city, its people, how it progresses, what its future holds. And again, you don't know where life's journey is ultimately going to take you. Bob had an opportunity to become a city councilor in a way that is a little unusual, and now he's going to create a similar opportunity for someone else out there in Sioux Falls. And I guess what my challenge to you is that there is somebody out there in this city that can follow the example that this man has followed through his city council membership and his city council leadership. And we need you, Sioux Falls. We need another Bob Litz out there. This is a man that cares about his family, cares about his faith, he cares about his co-city councilors. He cares about so much more than himself. What a testament to his mom, to his dad, and yes, to this young man. Bob Litz, I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss you. I've learned so much in just the short amount of time that we've been working together up on this stage, but I'm going to miss you for even more, because there is so much that you provided to the citizens of Sioux Falls, and now Minnehaha County and the citizens of Sioux Falls will now get to see Bob at an even higher level of performance with his new role. I would like to welcome Mr. Bob Litz to his new role, but I don't want to forget what the man accomplished in his prior role. Mr. Bob Litz, Councilor Bob Litz, we thank you. Congratulations. This is also a man who never hesitates to talk. And I don't know if this is appropriate, but I would like him to share just some final words as a city councilor. Bob, would you mind?
Thank you, Mike. You brought me up a little short. I'd like to thank the City of Sioux Falls, Mayor Huther, and my colleagues here on the council for the opportunities for expanding my horizons very greatly. And if it wasn't for this job, I wouldn't be going on to the next one, because it set the groundwork for doing it. And I owe this city a debt of gratitude for, like I say, the opportunities it's provided me. I've really enjoyed the work, and I will miss it. Thank you.
Thank you for recognizing Councilor Litz the way that you did. It certainly is well deserved. We would like to introduce some other folks that are in the audience today. We're not going to let you speak, but I would like to recognize the members of the Multicultural Center's English as a Second Language class, and they are led by instructors Judy Masachek and Diane Ron. If you could stand, we'd appreciate it. It's wonderful to have you here tonight. Well, Sioux Falls, we'll get on with the city's business now. And if we could have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved, Litz.
Second, Aguilar.
Councilor Litz has made a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda. It was seconded by Councilor Aguilar. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, if we could have a vote on that, please.
Councilors Jamison?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Thank you, City Council. That has passed 8-0. If we could have a motion to approve tonight's regular agenda.
So moved. Brown.
Second, Erpenbach.
Councilor Brown has made a motion to approve tonight's regular agenda. It was seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. Are there any motions that, yes, Councilor Jameson.
Mayor, I have a motion to amend the regular agenda by moving item 29 before item 10.
Second, Litz.
There's been a motion to move item number 29 before item 10 in tonight's agenda. It was that was made by Councilor Jameson. It was seconded by Councilor Litz. Is there any discussion on that? If we could have a roll call vote on that, please.
Councilors Jamison?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. If we could now vote on the amended agenda. Is there a motion?
Move Anderson.
There's been a motion by Councilor Anderson to approve tonight's amended agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. Any further discussion? We get a vote on that, please.
Councilors Jamison?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Thank you. That has passed 8-0. Again, I'd like to welcome all of you here tonight to the City Council meeting. This is a wonderful opportunity for you to actually talk to the City Councilors. They'd love to hear from you, and we'd like to give you this opportunity. We would ask you to just come to the podium. If it's an item that is not on tonight's regular agenda, we'd ask you to come now. We'd ask you to limit that to about 5 minutes. And please understand, it's an opportunity for you to relay your comments to the City Council. It's not really a question and answer session. So is there anyone here who would like to speak to your City Council? Mr. Stengo, welcome.
Tim Stanga. Bob, congratulations. Known you for a long time, and I'm glad that you're moving up. You deserve it. I guess just a couple issues. Talked to a lot of people outside of this building. And a lot of people just don't feel like they're being heard in the town. Between they're not being heard through the mayor's office and some of the city councilors, that there are people suffering in this town. A lot of people, more people going out to the fairgrounds to get free food. A lot of people that are putting off doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, just to be able to make it from 1 month to the next. And I just want the city council to realize that we got to put forth an effort to help these people out. I know that, again, I'm going to stress it. It'd be nice to be able to put the people first before the entertainment center. Plus, they also stated that, I commented on the arena last week. And people just sort of shake their head and try to figure out what's the truth and what isn't the truth about the arena. Either it's outgrown its lifestyle or capacity, or whether the city's just letting it go down and just making it look like it isn't what it should be. And I think people would like to be able to know the truth, and they would like to have more participation in whether we need an entertainment center, whether we don't need an entertainment center, looking at the arena as a whole, or being able to figure out where it should go to where it shouldn't go. I think that the people of Sioux Falls want to be able to be a part of it, and so far hasn't had a say in one thing about it. And I'm just hoping that the city council and the mayor's office will start letting people participate in where the facility should go, how it should be run, what things should be looked at, even if we need one, we don't need one. Maybe look at the arena to see what has to be done on it to make it last for a few more years. I don't know. But I just think that there's a lot of people out there very skeptical. And I'm going to speak for these people as far as I can go. And it's just time that, again, the people out here don't think that they're being heard. And it's time that we let them in on it and open up and be able to let people participate on any decisions that are a major decision like we have now. Appreciate it.
Mr. Tinga, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to the City Council? Welcome. Welcome.
Scott Arisman, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I'd like to touch on something that Tim said. Been talking to a lot of people. But anyway, there's two things in the event center debate that have been totally ignored over the whole course of events and all the task force. And I brought this up to the last task force, and probably the last task force, to tell you the truth. There's two things that are being ignored. The public hasn't yet voted on this. They haven't said whether or not they want it, number one. And number two, there's no funding source. We can draw up all the plans we want. We can spend millions of dollars. We've probably spent over $1 million already, and we have nothing. We have an idea. Ideas are free. That's what this country was built on, free ideas. But we decided that we're going to spend millions of dollars on ideas instead of asking the public, number one, do you want this? And number two, how you want to pay for it. We can go on and on and on. And I got to tell you what, I'm nauseated by the discussion. I'm nauseated about the debate. It makes me sick. When Tim sits over here and talks about people struggling in our community, yet we got $1 million to throw around on an idea, we should be ashamed. We should be ashamed as a government. It is time we put this to a vote and we find out a funding source, period. Enough screwing around. Enough. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the paper talking about it. There's so many other things in our community that are much more important. Way more important. I think it's time to get down to it.
Mr. Sheriffman, thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to the City Council? Welcome.
Hi, I'm Carol Jacobs, and I have a daughter with disabilities who lives in a group home, and there is no bus service out there. So she's been riding paratransit, and now she's on conditional use just for the winter. So I'm just trying to figure out what we can do to get transportation for her to work. And it's not just her, but there's others I've talked to that have the same problem. But it's like, okay, winter's going to be rolling around to an end, we hope. And she works downtown, and she lives out in the southeast part of town. So it's like just a concern of what we can do to keep her working. Taking a taxi will eat up all her wages, so it's kind of like, I'd rather have her take the bus because it's a lot cheaper and she's capable, but there's no bus service out there. So it's just a concern. Thank you.
Carolyn, thank you. And again, Deborah Gayakowski is a contact within city government who can certainly answer any questions that you would have, along with Mike Cooper. And Mike is in charge of that department and so much more. But they will certainly be able to provide you some responses to your questions. They may not have all the answers you're looking for, but at least can provide you some input. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to the City Council? Well, again, thank you so much for being here today, and for the three of you that did speak to the council, we certainly respect your comments. We will move on to item number 29, which was moved up, and with that, I'm going to pass it over to Councilor Greg Jameson. Oh, no, I guess I'm not.
Item 29, a resolution thanking Siouxland Library's Director, Sally Felix, for her 8 years of service and thanking her for the contributions she has made as Director.
Councilor Jameson.
Just as a point of privilege, I would like to address the crowd.
Please.
Sally Felix, could you come forward? Sally, this is a resolution thanking you for your service as the director of the Siouxland Library System. And I'll try to read this. I'm not sure if I'll be as good at it as the mayor is, but we'll try. Whereas Sally Felix was hired as director of Siouxland Libraries on January 21st, 2003, and she will retire on February 25th, 2011. And whereas in that time there have been expanded and improved library facilities that will serve the citizens of Sioux Falls and Minnehaha County for years to come, including the building of the Oakview Branch Library in 2005, the expansion and renovation of the main library in 2008 through 2010, the renovation of the Crooks Branch Library in 2010, and building improvements at the Cayley and Ronning Branch Libraries in Sioux Falls and at the Garretson, Valley Springs, and Hartford Branch Libraries. And whereas Sally Felix has strengthened library programs and collections, including expanded programming for children, teens, and adults, improved the library materials collection, implemented the e-books and downloadable audiobook collections, and increased service hours at the main library and rural branches. And whereas, as a result of Sally Felix's vision for improved library service, the library system has seen increased use of technology, added more computers for patron use, implemented online computer reservation system, upgraded the library automation system, and installed a new program reservation system. And whereas, under Sally Felix leadership, use of the library increased dramatically, with significant increases for circulation of library materials, use of public computers, visits to the library buildings, and attendance at library events. And whereas, Sally Felix strengthened library staffing by reorganization, increased staff training, and empowerment through delegation. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, that on this 22nd day of February 2011, that the City Council does recognize and thank Sally Felix for her dedication to improving public library service during her years of service as Director of Siouxland Libraries. Congratulations and thank you.
handed the mic, so I will use it. Well, thank you very much, City Council. It is really quite an honor, and I appreciate your support and have over my 8 years here, and those council members before you, and also your recognition and your commitment to library service. I guess if John Boehner can cry in public, so can I. I hope not, but I'm going to try it, make through here. I've had a wonderful 8 years. It's a great library system and a great city. You may or may not know that in August of this year, the Sioux Falls Public Library is 125 years old. And library service in Minnehaha County, and those of you who aren't aware, we are a city-county library. Library service in Minnehaha County is 51 years old this year. We got to the point where we are today with the fine library system that we have. And I've only played a very, very small part in that. 8 years is a short term for Siouxland libraries, and before that, public library directors. But we have gotten to the point where we are, not through any one person, but we've gotten here because of the vision and the commitment and the hard work of many people over many years. And I would like to ask the City Council specifically to continue your commitment and your support so that the community can say the same thing in the future. Obviously, this is the last time I come before you as an employee of the City of Sioux Falls. But you may still see me as a private citizen. You know, I will be in town, and I plan to watch all of the budget discussions and deliberations. I mean, get a life, right, Sally? And also, I look forward to the watching the progress of the West Side Branch Library. So thank you all very much. This is quite an honor. I do appreciate it. Thank you, Greg.
We're going to mail this to you when it's all signed.
Councilor Jameson, great job. Councilor Jameson, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, please. A motion to approve item 29.
Second, Litz.
There's been a motion by Councilor Jameson. It was seconded by Councilor Litz to approve item number 29. We would like to open this up for any public comment. Would anybody like to speak on behalf of item 29 before the City Council takes this up? Very good. The City Council, do you have any comments on item number 29? Very good. Well, let's have a vote on item number 29. And with your permission, Councilor Jameson, I think it'd be important to read this. And that is, item 29 is a resolution thanking Siouxland Libraries Director Sally Felix for her 8 years of service and thanking her for the contribution she has made as director. Roll call vote, please.
Councilors Jameson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Let it be noted that the resolution passed unanimously by the City Council of Sioux Falls. Item number 10.
A new 2011 package liquor license for Cubby's Inc., Cubby's North Cliff, to be operated at 3420 North Cliff Avenue. Item 11, rescind the 2010-11 package malt beverage license for Cubby's Inc., Cubby's North Cliff, operated at 3420 North Cliff Avenue. Item 12, transfer of a 2011 retail liquor license from LFK Holdings, Inc., Schmoes Bar, 921 East 8th Street to SRS, Inc., name to be determined, to be operated at 901 West 41st Street, including Sunday sales and video lottery terminals effective April 15, 2011. Full-service restaurant, CUP not required, pending final inspections per fire, Health and Building Services. Item 13, transfer of 2010-11 packaged malt beverage license from Leslie and Kent Van Roekel, Park Ridge Convenience Store, 1801 Southwestern Avenue, to Melinda Copen, Park Ridge Gas and Pack, to be operated at 1801 Southwestern Avenue. Item 14, a special one-day liquor license for Hy-Vee Inc. to be operated at the Old Courthouse Museum, 200 West 6th Street for a wedding reception on March 26, 2011. Item 15, special one-day liquor license request for SMG to be operated at the Orpheum Theater, 315 North Phillips Avenue for a business reception on March 11, 2011, and a wedding reception on August 20, 2011. Item 16, a special one-day liquor license request for SMG to be operated at the Arena, 1201 Northwest Avenue for the Sioux Falls Storm home season games on March 14th and 21st, April 3rd and 15th, and May 7th, 15th, and 28th, 2011, and for possible playoff games from June 1st through July 31st, 2011. Item 17, a special one-day liquor license request for Washington Pavilion Management, Inc., Washington Pavilion of Arts and Science, 301 South Main Avenue for various special events on March 4th, 25th, and 26th, April 15th, May 28th and 29th, June 10, 18, 24th, and 25th, 2011. Item 18, a special one-day liquor license request for Ovation Food Services, LP, Sioux Falls Pheasants Baseball Club to be operated at 1001 Northwest Avenue in the Tiki Bar and Suites for the 2011 home season games. Item 19, special one-day malt beverage and wine license for Senior Citizen Services, Inc. to be operated at Active Generations, 2300 West 46th Street for the Cocktails and Canvas Art class on March 22nd, 2011.
Lori, welcome.
Thank you, Lori Hogshead with the City Attorney's Office. Thank you, Denise, for reading through all those. I have on the agenda tonight 1 request for a new license, 2 transfers, and 6 requests for special one-day licenses. And I'd be happy to answer questions on items 10 through 19.
Thank you, Lori. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to any of these items? City Council, would anybody like to make a motion?
Move to approve. Litz.
Second, Aguilar.
Councilor Litz has made a motion to approve these items, and it was seconded by Councilor Aguilar. Any further discussion? If we could have a roll call vote, please.
Councilors Jamison,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed as well. Item number 20.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, providing supplemental appropriations to assist Minnehaha County in purchasing a security system for Project Safe Home.
Councilor Litz.
Yes, this is the second reading, like I said, so we're going to vote on this tonight, I believe. But it's a project that I talked about last week, but a new development. Last week, this is 2 parts. One is appropriating the money, and the second part, of course, is having an agreement from the city, at which point when and where we're going to give the money to the county to go ahead and do this. And I was at a building committee meeting at the county today, and we're assured the project is going forward as of today, and so that agreement could be, the language could be written up and carried forward by somebody else here, if that need be. I'm not sure exactly, as a point of order, how that would be executed. Mr. Attorney, if you would clear that up for us. Why?
Councilor, may I?
Please.
Mayor? It's my understanding that we're going to have this ordinance setting forth a supplemental appropriation, and then at a later time, the actual agreement will be drafted in terms of providing the money to the county regarding the Project Safe House.
My question to you, sir, would be, will this council have to vote on the agreement as well?
As long as the ordinance is authorizing the payment itself, then they would not have to authorize the actual agreement itself, Council.
Very good. Thank you, sir. So that's, I just would encourage my colleagues to look seriously at this and get this done.
Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to this particular item? This is a second reading, so you do have an opportunity to speak to the City Council about it. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Carol Muller, Minnehaha County Department of Human Services. And we have been working for a long time on Project Safe Home and are excited about this and just want to express our appreciation. And if there are any questions we can answer. We do plan on the first 2 weeks of October, we will be moving people in and plan on full occupancy by the end of December. That's our goal, and we have a plan for it. So we're going to move ahead.
Councilor Brown.
Carol, thank you for being here. I understand today, though, that you did have to do some pretty serious cutting on the project. Is that correct?
Let me take you through just a little bit of the process that's out there. And, keep in mind that I joined this process midway through for Minnehaha County. Yes, the budget things that we had discussion on were really the additional type of things that were out there, like, for instance, the type of plumbing we were going to have. If we were more detailed into what you wanted, but I know Councilmember Litz sat through that conversation about 2-inch piping versus half-inch piping and how expensive we want to go and where we can afford to go and what we can afford to do with it. But no, the basic project has always been in place financially. It was a lot of the additional type of things that we were looking at. And as you know, every project comes with a lot of wants and desires, and we're making it work.
Thank you.
Carol, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to speak to item number 20? Very good. City Council?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second, Erpenbach.
It's been a motion by Councilor Litz. It was seconded by Councilor Erpenbach to approve item number 20. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Jameson.
I would just like to wish the county the best of luck with this project. I hope it works out as they hope it does. I just feel an overwhelming opposition for myself on how I stand on this issue as far as the city participating in its funding. So I just wanted to at least take the time to wish the county good luck and know that I do mean that. It's just that I believe that the city funds should be spent on city projects and the county's funds should be spent on county projects. So I will not support this, but best of luck to you.
Councilor Jameson, thank you. Hearing no further discussion, if we could have a vote on item number 20. This is the second reading. Item 20.
Councilors Jameson?
No.
Litz?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
That is passed 6-1. Item number 21.
First reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city by revising the definition of commercial vehicles and adding a definition for service vehicles.
Welcome,
Good evening. Mike Cooper, Planning and Building Services. We have 4 items tonight that are being recommended to you by the City Planning Commission from their last regular monthly meeting. The first item is a proposed amendment to the city zoning ordinance that would pertain to parking of certain types of vehicles within residential neighborhoods. This was brought to us as an issue by members of the City Council, and we've gone through staff review of this, looking at what other cities do, as well as talking to the Land Use Committee, and then working through a proposal that's being recommended by the City Planning Commission. We have had an ordinance in place since the mid-1980s pertaining to a definition of commercial vehicles. And right now, the definition of a commercial vehicle is tied to if there's signage or graphics of 16 square feet or more on that vehicle, then it becomes defined as a commercial vehicle. And those are not currently allowed to be parked in residential areas. What we've discovered over the years is that 2 things have gone on. One, there's been an increase in the number of smaller service vehicles that go in and out of residential neighborhoods. They might be pickups, they might be vans. We're not talking about garbage trucks or other larger commercial type of vehicles. We also have seen an increase in the use of these smaller vehicles by people that live in neighborhoods for not only business purposes but also as personal passenger vehicles. So what we did is we went through and we looked at what other cities have in terms of regulations, and we thought that the best way to approach this was by using visual examples. So I'm going to quickly go through on the screen personal vehicles that would be allowed for residential parking under this proposed amendment to the zoning ordinance. Obviously, we have vans and pickup trucks that would not have any graphics on them. That would not change. But we would also have a new definition that's being proposed with this amendment of what we call service vehicles. And I'm just going to read that before we go through these slides. A service vehicle would be defined as any vehicle built or assembled for personal passenger use that incorporates attachments in order to support service functions. A service vehicle is utilized as support for service and is not utilized to perform a specific commercial function. And also, within this proposed amendment, service vehicles would be allowed to be parked in connection with the performance of a service or operated by a resident of a dwelling within residential areas. So again, some of the examples of what we mean, a service vehicle that would incorporate certain types of attachments. You take a pickup truck, you take a van, and you modify it. It still can be used for both commercial as well as personal passenger actions. And obviously these would fit within a typical garage or residential area. But in some cases they would exceed the 16 square feet of graphics or signage. So this is on a way of trying to reach some kind of a balance between what's currently restricted and what we see as more of a request by people not only that live but also that work or serve residential neighborhoods. Commercial vehicles, we would amend that definition by taking out the 16 square feet of signage, but they would continue to be not allowed within residential parking. And here's some, obviously, examples. There are larger vehicles like this that are in a residential area for a very short period of time. But what we're talking about here is something that would be parked there throughout the year and not just for a one-time purpose. So again, we're trying to use the visuals to help sort this through what we mean by commercial vehicle versus the new definition of a service vehicle. And this, again, has been recommended for approval by the City Planning Commission. And this is first reading tonight.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mike. And because this is the first reading, we don't open it up for public comment until the second reading. But it does give people like Mike Cooper an opportunity to begin the dialogue, not only with the City Council, but also, of course, with the people of Sioux Falls. Item number 22.
First reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city to revise residential parking to allow for temporary parking for recreational vehicles.
This is a similar background of a proposed amendment to our city zoning ordinance. This one pertains to the parking of recreational vehicles. Again, the current ordinance that has been in place for a number of years actually prohibits the parking of RVs in residential areas. And we've had discussions over the years about changing that, allowing it either on a seasonal basis or making some provisions for people to at least load and unload their RVs during those summertime uses. Again, we've taken this through looking at other city regulations, working with members of the council, the land use committee, to have some discussion back and forth of should we modify what we currently allow or don't allow. And again, I think what we've come up here is a compromise to try. Essentially what this amendment would allow is the parking of recreational vehicles for a period of not more than 48 hours, defined for customary cleaning and loading. And again, we have some slides because as we talked to the City Planning Commission presenting this at a public hearing, I know there were questions about, okay, if we allow this, what other city ordinances would still apply? And the one that we're showing in this visual is that there is still an ordinance that would remain on the books that by parking an RV in your driveway, you would not be allowed to block the sidewalk. And so here's an example of one that would be in violation, even with this proposed ordinance amendment that's being considered for first reading tonight. The typical residential front yard is about 25 feet from the property line. The property line is typically about another 2.5 feet to the sidewalk. So let's say that on average, most residential homes are within 27 feet of the sidewalk. So if you have an RV that would exceed that length, you would not be able to park that within your front yard or your driveway. Another visual here is that you're not allowed to park RVs in the front yard. They have to be parked in the driveway itself. And again, this is an example showing you that this is not legal today. It would not be legal with this proposed amendment. So I know that was a question that came up as part of the Planning Commission discussion. The other question that I've heard people ask is, if you park it for 48 hours and then you back it out and you drive around the block and you come back, can you park it another 48 hours? Again, I think there's a little bit of a common sense factor to some of our ordinances that I believe that if somebody is going to start doing that, the neighbors will let us know, and then we can approach it as a code enforcement process. Again, I believe that what we're being asked to consider or bring to the public for consideration to you is a concept of a change. It's going to be up to you, the city council members, to decide if you want to make this policy change or if you would like us to continue to look at other options. So that's a quick overview of what's being recommended. And again, that did go through City Planning Commission for approval.
Councilors. Councilor Les.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mike, I'm looking at this item 22 here, the camper, and a couple of years ago I went by and somebody was illegally parked. I saw the camper, but I didn't see the hitch, and a lot of these are equipped with a hitch, so is there language in there to say including the hitch and the length of this?
I don't know that it's that specific in the ordinance, and maybe we would have to clarify that, but even now we would enforce it as the entire structure, the entire vehicle. So a hitch over hanging the sidewalk would still be a violation.
Very good, because I just foresee maybe that becoming an issue with somebody.
Right.
So if you didn't tell me. Yeah. So
that's defined as part of the vehicle.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Brown.
Talking about enforcement, Mike, give the citizens a sense of how this is enforced.
Yeah, typically the current ordinance, which is prohibitive, is enforced primarily by a complaint. And, in the past, when we go to an address that received a complaint, if there was a violation, then we would notify the property owner, and we still do that today. We have, with our code enforcement process now, said if you see other violations, don't just write down that one address, but look at other potential addresses that would need to be investigated. But it is primarily by complaint that we enforce that ordinance today.
One of the questions I get from citizens, if they make that complaint, is their name registered that they're complaining on their neighbor? How does that work?
Is there what? No?
Are they registered? If my neighbor complains about me, am I able to find out that my neighbor complained about me?
Okay, I'm sorry. Complaints can be either anonymous or they can tell us, yes, I would like you to contact me with a follow-up about what's going on with my complaint. So it works both ways.
Okay. But
But the complaints are anonymous, or we keep them confidential is what I meant to say, so that if I receive a citation by the city, I am not able to find out how that was initiated.
Any idea how many violators we have on this ordinance every year?
I would be able to find that out before second reading, but
I would appreciate knowing that
I think
if you
that would be good to find out.
Thanks, Mike.
It's a seasonal thing, but yes, we can go back and look at what our track record has been with code enforcement.
Counselors and I need to apologize. Both Jamie and Denise have informed me because this is first reading, we honestly shouldn't allow any commentary at this time. So my apologies for allowing that to continue. If we could move on to item number 23, please.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, a major amendment, petition number 2010-12-07 to Chapter 15.45.070, Plan Development Districts 1108 East 2nd Street, amending the Scooter Plan Development District sub-area regulations. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
Ms. Cooper.
The Scooter Plan Development District is a little interesting corner on Cliff Avenue and 2nd Street. And this was established a few years ago. This property originally was zoned for office, and the owner came forward with a pretty interesting idea to kind of help establish a new business opportunity in the Whittier neighborhood. So we put together the plan development, which was approved by the City Council, that initially allowed for motor vehicle sales of not more than 400 cc's, which is where the name scooter came from, because that's what they were selling at the time. We also allowed an amendment to have retail trade and service in association with a clothing consignment store. The scooter business did not work out as well as the owners thought it would, and so now they have another new idea to use a portion of this building for a grocery store. And this amendment that's being requested by City Council action would allow the land use of retail trade and service in association with a grocery store. This amendment would also specify that no alcohol, either on sale or off sale, would be allowed. And that's based on discussions with the applicant or the owner of the facility. So it's a pretty straightforward request. The Planning Commission public hearing went very well. We did not receive any neighborhood questions or concerns about this amendment.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. Item number 24.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property east of the South Ellis Road and West 22nd Street intersection from the RS1 and RS2 residential districts to the RC Recreation Conservation District. Petition number 2011-01-01 and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is a petition by Ronning Enterprises, the developers of Memorial Park Estates, and this development is located on the north side of West 22nd Street, northwest of Discovery Elementary School. There's an existing drainageway that extends through this property. It's approximately 5 acres of land area, and the petitioner is just requesting it to be zoned recreation conservation, which would bring in conformance with the existing land use.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. Item number 25.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending Chapter 19 of the revised ordinances of the city by requiring family daycare homes to display most recent health department inspection.
Good evening. Jill Franken, Sioux Falls Health Director. Item number 25 is an ordinance change to require registered daycares to post completed inspections as well as some small language cleanup for consistency. The changes in Section 19-125 is just one of the items that's for cleanup, and that is under the registration certificate to be displayed section. And the cleanup is just to say that registration certificates will be displayed in plain view within the family daycare home. That is the cleanup language, family daycare home. Then in Section 19-132, under inspections, we also have some cleanup in the first sentence, all family daycare homes, to provide consistency with what we're calling the family daycares. And then the last sentence has been added. The most recent family daycare home inspection by the Health Department shall be displayed in plain view within the family daycare home. We have come before the Council on 2 different occasions regarding our inspection program that we have augmented through the Health Department during the last several months doing a fair amount of work to test out some new processes to do pre-opening, opening, and complaint-driven inspections. And this change to the ordinance simply requires the posting of those inspections that will be provided. We have a couple of goals that we're trying to meet by doing this, and goal number one is to provide operators with education and clarification on requirements. And our second goal is to provide parents with another avenue, not the avenue, but certainly another avenue to assess the daycare provider that they are currently working with. The number of inspections that we had done up to this point when we tested out our new process was 19. We did 16, 8 pre-opening and 8 post-opening inspections, and we had 3 that were based on a complaint that had been called into our department. Some of the significant findings that we've talked about and shared with you with those are the need to secure hazardous materials. We also have had to provide assistance and explain to the daycare providers that they need to register and screen their helpers. And then also the 3 complaint-based inspections actually did not result in a violation of city ordinance. So there's times that those complaints do not actually yield a actual violation. The complaints don't, but we certainly go in and check that out and do an inspection nevertheless. The daycare inspections are planned we are already doing them, but we will start to require posting when this ordinance is in place. And then also by the very beginning of April, we expect to be ready to have those online in a searchable process, as we've explained to you as well. We anticipate in 2011 that we'll probably do approximately 64 inspections. That's been on our historical number of new daycares that we have done, worked with, and also based on the number of complaints we average. We do not anticipate any need for increased staffing with this change. 64 will be easily manageable at this time, but will certainly be a start for us. We are also partnering with 211 Helpline to provide a means for their website to also be able to be a link to our website so that people can search for that information via the 211 Helpline Child Care website. So that's what I have for you tonight.
Item number 26.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, providing supplemental appropriations for a pass-through donation from Citibank, South Dakota to the Sioux Empire Baseball Association to be used towards the construction of a grandstand at Harbor Nunn baseball fields. Citibank, $20,000.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Don Kearney with Parks and Recreation. As the title of this ordinance reads, this is a pass-through of $20,000 donation from Citibank of South Dakota to the city, and then the city in turn to SEBA for the purpose of building the grandstands at Hamadan Park on the championship field there. By way of background, this project was, we broke ground after the baseball season this past summer. I'm pleased to report that the project's about 85% complete. The grandstands are up, but we still do have some concrete pads to pour. We've got some interior finishes that need to be made to the team locker rooms and those types of things. And then obviously we have some cleanup and landscaping and grading to finish out the project. Certainly we're grateful to Citibank of South Dakota for their donation towards this project, and all the other businesses and individuals that came together to put this project together, because it's completely funded through private dollars, and there are no tax dollars associated with this project. So we're pleased with the SEBA's efforts and their board of directors to make that happen. And when complete, we have a gifting agreement with SEBA that will, when the project is done, they'll actually turn those assets over to the city, which we believe will result in about a $500,000 to $600,000 investment that SEBA will make in city facilities for us. And so I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Councilors, would anybody like to make a motion to set the date of the second reading for items 21 through 26 for Monday, March 7th at 7 p.m.?
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Rolfing's made a motion to set that hearing date for that second reading. It was seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. Is there any discussion on this? Hearing none, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Councilors Jameson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 7-0. Item number 27.
A resolution approving transit route modifications.
Welcome.
Good evening, Deborah Gaikowski, Transit Planner for the City of Sioux Falls. Sioux Area Metro is proposing to modify several existing transit routes. Beginning with Route 2, it is proposed to move the bus off of Grange Avenue between 15th and 18th Street to avoid a fairly dangerous intersection. Instead, the bus will access Grange Avenue off of 18th Street. Another proposed change on Route 2 reduces the area of an existing loop off of Western Avenue between 44th Street and 51st Street to a smaller loop, going east on 51st Street to West Avenue and back out to Western Avenue on 50th Street. This will ensure that the clients at South Dakota Achieve will still have access to the bus. On Route 4, the change on Route 4 will consist of adding a loop to serve the banquet area. This area is currently served by Route 7, but we're going to make some changes to Route 7 so we can get out to the east side target. So Route 4 will pick it up for that. Also on Route 4, the portion of the route on 15th Street between Sycamore and Cleveland Avenue and 12th Street from Cleveland to Jessica Avenue will be eliminated, but there will be an addition of new route between 10th Street and Cleveland Avenue because there's several businesses along this stretch that have never been served by transit services. Route 8, proposed changes for Route 8 consist of taking the route off of Main Avenue on the inbound and moving it over to Cliff Avenue. This is a very tight route, so by doing that, we're able to travel on a higher speed route plus a more direct route to get to the downtown bus station. Route 12. Route 12 was started in June of 2009. Since it began, ridership has been approximately 250 rides per month. Just as comparison, our Route 7 in January of 2011 had over 15,000 rides in the month. So because of the low ridership, it is proposed to discontinue this route and to shift any operational savings from that to our Routes 10 and Route 11. Route 10 is a route that takes an entire hour to get from the downtown bus stop out to the Southwest Center. So our proposed changes on that will cut it back quite a bit and reduce that time to about half of what it is right now. And Route 11, the changes to Route 10 will require that Route 11 pick up the areas that are cut off of Route 10. So in order to do that, Route 11 would really change completely from where it is right now. So all the operating funds from Route 12 through the elimination of Route 12 would go to expanding Route 11 and running it on a more frequent basis. Route 19. Route 19, which currently serves the Southeast Tech School, will continue to do so, but large areas of the route will change because we've got some overlap with another route, plus we've got some areas where there's really no development and therefore no passengers out in that area. So we'd like to eliminate that, and since we've had so many requests for service further to the north, there's like HUD housing up to the north of Southeast Tech, we're going to use that time to get out there to the north a little bit further. But before requesting your approval on this resolution, I would like to amend it by removing all references to Route 10, 11, and 12. And in the amended resolution, I'm seeking approval for the changes for Routes 2, 4, 8, and 19 only. And the clerk will read the actual verbiage of the amendment.
By removing references in the second paragraph to Routes 10, 11, and the sentence, quote, and deferred action on Route 12 until its January meeting and, unquote, removing the third paragraph, and in the fifth paragraph, removing references to Routes 10, 11, and removing the sentence, quote, further Route 12 is hereby eliminated, unquote.
Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to this item tonight? Mr. Santee, welcome.
Since the proposed changes, as far as I understand them, and since I haven't seen the maps with the, or do not know about the recent amendment, the bus system is removing all safe access to Hy-Vee grocery stores, the one on 41st Street and the one on, or 49th Street and the one on 26th and Marion Road. I feel that would give unfair competitive advantage to Walmart in the south part of or east part of town, since there is direct safe access to that store. So you might as well move the bus stop there right out onto the street also. So to get to that store, you also have a long trek through a parking lot. And another thing with Route 7, and this really isn't covered or addressed by this, is by going out to all the stores, you're going to have a lot of shoppers, and you're going to have a lot of conflict with Washington High School students on at least one route, or one scheduled route. And something should be done to eliminate that problem. And I would also like to insist that all the new bus stops be fully ADA compliant and compatible.
Deborah, would you be willing or be able to address any of the comments that Mr. Santee made in the spirit of helping to educate the City Council as well?
First of all, when he's talking about Route 7 going to Walmart, it goes into very close to the building, right next to the building. And then he's referring to removing stops by the Hy-Vees, 26th and Marion. We are still going to have a stop there. Right now the stop is basically really close to the building, but we're going to move it to the corner area, which is, if you're familiar with that area, the situation is a little bit different than it is on the East Side Walmart. That is quite a trek from the street to the building itself. 26th and Marion is a little bit different situation. I don't think it would be quite as far, but we will still have a stop on that corner. The Hy-Vee at 49th and Louise, we're moving it from, it's directly on the south side of the Hy-Vee building right now. There's a shelter. We want to move it to on Louise, right in front of that, or really close to that gas station that's there right now. So in relation, you're talking probably a couple hundred feet or maybe 100 feet to get into the building versus maybe 200-300 feet instead. So I believe that addresses those. He also talked about making the bus stops accessible. We've had some concerns about not all of our bus stops being ADA accessible. They can't get on and off the bus because there's no ramps, curb cuts, that kind of thing. The city is going to be doing a new ADA transition plan, which is basically looking at everything within the city, sidewalks, all that kind of thing. Can people get where they need to go? If not, we're going to program it in to start making those improvements. We did that several years ago. I think it's been 8 to 10 years, something like that. And so it is time to update that, see where we've come thus far. But throughout the country, transit agencies inevitably have a bus stop here and there that is not accessible. So the federal government has a clause in their ADA rule that says if a bus stop is not accessible, that person, if they have conditional paratransit eligibility, they are able to use the paratransit service to get to that area. And which Charles always has that option to do that, and he's fully aware of that. I think that was everything.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this item from the audience tonight? Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I'm Connie Sims. I do have quite a few different concerns. Some things are good, some things are bad, I think. Not even sure where to start at. But kind of bear with me. I'm visually impaired, so let me kind of guide through my stuff a little bit. But the informational meeting last week, I want to kind of start out with that Michelle asked if all of the PTAB meeting people were able to be contacted, if their information was on the website. And it's not. It actually says that if you want to talk to a PTAB member, board member, you need to contact Deborah. So their names are on there on a different page. Their terms are up when they, list all that, but it does not tell you how to contact a board member. So you need to know someone personally that's on the board if you want to talk to them directly. Otherwise, you have to talk to Deborah. One of my other things I wanted to read to you that I found that was on the transit website is concerning how the bus system kind of not really works, but I will just read it to you. The City of Sioux Falls has a strong interest in the development of a balanced and multimodal transportation system. A healthy public transportation system plays an important role in preserving and improving the mobility of persons participating in the social and economic life of this community. So she wants to defer Route 12, and I think that's great, and I think that needs to be done. But I think at the same time, Route 10, back in the 90s when that started, was very, very low ridership, and that was before Deborah, and that was before Karen. And there was talk about getting rid of that one, but they stuck with it. And now that ridership is really, really good. But there wasn't a lot of stuff out there at that time either. And that area has really improved. And that is the one that's out, that is a 2-hour route. They've modified it several times. And that goes out to the Hayward, 26th Street, and Marion Road. But there wasn't a lot out there back in the 90s. There was stuff there, but not a lot. Now it's really improved. And I think Route 12 could be the same way. It's a newer area, and I think a lot is going to be building out there. And when Route 12 first started, there was the Heart Hospital, Behavioral Health, and one university. Now there's 2 universities out there, 3 universities. So I believe that it can really grow, but we need to give it time. And I think that the 11 and 10 can still work because 12 and 11 go every half hour. 11 starts, the next half hour it's 12, and then vice versa. They're talking about doing 11 every half hour. With the changes to every hour, they will still get a better service in that area, the residential area on the south of 41st Street. So they're still going to get a better service than they get now in that residential area. And if Route 10 goes down to an hour instead of a 2-hour route, that's going to free up that driver to do an additional routes during the day. And start Route 12 at an earlier time. It doesn't start until 9:05 in the morning, so you're not letting people get out there that need to go to work or appointments early. And it ends earlier. And I think extending the hours may also help. I just think there's some tweaking that could be done that could work. My other concern or question was on Route 2. There are bus stops that are shelters, I should say, at 17th and Grange. When they move these routes, the route to 18th, what is going to happen to these shelters? And when the construction of Sanford is done, will the shelters get moved back to by the hospital on Grange Avenue, where they were before, just south of the Village Inn on the way in, and just south of the New Heart Hospital. I think that's really important for not just the passengers, but visitors in town to know that there's bus service really close and it's available. So if you're visiting, that it's accessible to them. On number 3, that was not brought up to you, but it's, as Deborah said, it's contingent on 11 and 10 and 12. They want to do, 3 would take over the mall area, and that would go into they don't want to go into the mall. And they would, there's a stop on Louise Avenue right now that is between the Penny's entrance and the TJ Maxx entrance. That is fine if you want to get out there, but you can get off onto that sidewalk or off to that bench. But getting into the mall, there's no sidewalks. So if you're blind or in a wheelchair or elderly, you're walking in with traffic into that mall. I suggest keeping the shelter at the corner of Penny's and letting the bus continue to go in and do that short little loop into the mall for a safety reason for the passengers. How would you like to be blindfolded or in a wheelchair and walk into traffic and not have any guidance? It's pretty scary. When I was on the Accessibility for All study group back in 2007, one of our main purpose was equability. We wanted an equitable system between paratransit and transit, and I felt that's what we were at. But with these changes on the 12, you're taking away some of that equitable, because paratransit is going to expand on Route 7 and on Route 19, which is great, and that's 3/4 mile more than the fixed route. So with those guidelines, you're going to be almost into Crooks and almost into Brandon. But yet, you want to take away our service for the fixed route and have it just a core service. So you wouldn't even be able to get past 57th Street. There's a lot out there. And like Michelle said last week, it's our car, it's our vehicle. But also, even actually a driver said to me, what about a road? You can always go buy a new car, but you can't just go build a new road. It's our road. How would you like to have it that your road is taken away? Greg lives out in that area. How would you like to feel that you have your house out there, but how do you get back into town? Because there's no road to you. I think that's a concern. And I think the maps that they're presenting are incomplete. One of the concerns at the public hearings and all the PTAB meetings we've gone to talked about where the stop's going to be. The stops are not listed on the maps, so passengers are very concerned about where the maps are, where the stops are going to be. So I think they need to present that to you as to a council, to the mayor, that show you where a good stops are going to be. And not instead of saying, well, we'll put those on the map when it's approved. And that's what we were told. We'll let you know what the stops are when it's all approved. But how would you like to do that with the event center? How would you like to not know where your parking's going to be? So I think the stops are so important too, because we rely on that. We plan our trips where our stops are going to be and how long it's going to take us to walk from that location. And I agree with Charles on, I think the loop by Hy-Vee on 26th and Marion that goes by Hy-Vee and into Lowe's needs to stay. It's you know, they say they're going to have a stop at 26th and Marion, but that's what, block and a half and 2 blocks. And when you're elderly or disabled, can be tough when you're carrying groceries. And that was one of the things that I heard down at the public hearing was, how am I going to get to the grocery store? You're going to take my stop away. It's not going to be easy for me to go get my groceries. And that was from elderly people. And then there are people that are disabled that work at Lowe's. And Karen's comment was, well, they can just take paratransit all the time. So if you're making it unaccessible, you're going to force more people back onto paratransit. And the goal was to try to get people off paratransit. So my concern is, how accessible is all of these changes going to be? I think the 7 is another concern. I think it's great. I think it needs to go out there. But time-wise, it's a very, very tight route. And I suggested to Deborah that they go around Washington twice. And I said, why can't we not go around Washington twice And she said, we have to, there's a lot of ridership. Well, there's a lot of ridership, a lot of places. Maybe at school time in the morning and once in the afternoon, maybe they can do that the second time. But for time-wise, there's a lot of trains, there's a lot of wheelchairs. That's a high usage. Why not, for time, take that second loop away to guarantee that the bus can make it downtown and everyone can make transfers? That's huge. But at the same time, I think it's a great route. And with the stops on 8 and 7, I think that's going to be a wonderful area, because if you do 8 and you go down Cliff Avenue, if they would do a stop at Rice and Cliff, then I think a person that works at, say, at Morales, that could get off, catch the bus and get off at the, or wherever, get off at Cliff and Rice. If someone's coming in from 8, they could catch the number 7 if the times work, but they could go out, instead of having to go all the way downtown, they could catch number 7. And again at number 6, they could catch going downtown towards Falls Park. I think there's a lot of options to make it so you don't have to always go downtown. And that's the same thing with 10 and 11. There's going to be spots there at 41st and Marion and at 41st and Shirley that they can make transfers. And I think it will, in the long run, all fall together. But there are some concerns. I think it's great that they want to defer 10, 11, and 12, and I hope that happens. But I think a compromise, I think it can all work. Thank you.
Connie, thank you. I wouldn't leave just yet, Connie, if you don't mind. City Council, I don't know if you would have any questions for Connie, or if you'd want Deborah to maybe address some of the items that Connie touched on. First of all, Connie, have you relayed these concerns already to public transit or to Deborah?
Yes, I have.
And could you just give us your impression then of you did relay some of the comments, the direct commentary, but did you feel like you were heard? They may not have agreed, but do you feel like you were heard?
I do, but I don't.
Okay.
They are so set in what they want to do, and that's what happened at the public hearing, was that Deborah, the only one I saw take notes, but they were so set in how they wanted to do it. They didn't want to hear compromises. And I think compromises, everyone has to maybe give a little. That's what this world's all about, was we all take and give a little bit to make everything work. Nothing's always black and white. I mean, we'd love it to be that way, but it's not always going to be that way. But I felt like I was heard, but I wasn't heard, because you voiced your concern, but then at the same time, well, we can't do that. That was always the comment. We can't do that, or it's not going to work.
Connie, thank you. Deborah, would you, there were a number of items. I don't know if, again, I don't know if we're going to deal with 10, 11, or 12 today, but would you mind tackling some of those that Connie mentioned for the City Council, please?
First of all, I think she mentioned something about having the PTAB contact information on the website. I'm not sure what the other boards do, if they actually post their actual names and phone numbers, but of course, if my number's on there, they can certainly get that information from me too. But I'll check in to see what the other boards are doing on that. She mentioned quite a few things about going into parking lots, getting close to Lowe's, that kind of thing. One of our big pushes is to get out of parking lots, because it is a huge safety issue. Just within the past few months, there was a person killed in another state by a bus in a parking lot. And not only that, but it's extremely slow. It really slows you down. And if you're going into a parking lot 5-6 times a day, that just increases your chances of something happening. She mentioned Lowe's. Lowe's, we have very little ridership at that particular stop. Yes, there is a disabled person that works there that can use the fixed route system to get to work, but when you're talking one person using the paratransit system versus having the fixed route bus go in there 5-6 times a day, there's still a cost savings there. So she mentioned not having to go down to the downtown bus stop all the time. I believe last week when I talked about in the transit development plan, one of our things we'd like to do is take a look at our hub and spoke system versus a grid system, so we don't have to go down to the bus stop all the time, because it is kind of confining, because you always have to, you only can go out so far because you've got time constraints, all that kind of thing. So that is something that we'd kind of like to take a look at. I did want to ask the Assistant General Manager when Route 10 started. Do you recall, Randy?
Probably the mid-1990s.
Was it? Okay. Because I was under the impression it was the early 2000s, so.
Deborah, could you just repeat what was just said?
He said that it started in the mid-1990s,
Thank
Route
you.
10 did, so. She talked about the stops on the maps, and we didn't want to show the stops on the map because, for one thing, there's quite a bit of work that goes into that, and if we're not sure if the route's going to be where we're proposing it to be, it's some time that we wouldn't have had to spend on it. Also, at our Public Transit Advisory Board, when we had our public hearing, that same comment came up, and we said we are more than willing to hear any input that you have on where you would like to see the stops before we place them. So feel free to contact us if anybody would like to share with us where they think a stop should be. Of course, we're always looking at the amount of ridership we're getting from certain areas of the city, too, and that helps us determine where we want to put our stops. So, she talked about the Accessible Transportation for All group, which was a focus group basically put together several years ago that addressed a lot of concerns, mainly paratransit and the cost of that going so high, and how can we deal with that. Equitability was something that came up. You know, it seemed that paratransit was getting more service than the fixed route, and people were upset about that. We had several recommendations laid out in that plan, and we have met and exceeded every single one of those goals more than once on some of them. We can't be everything to everybody, though, but we're doing the best that we can, and we've done things like cut back the paratransit service hours, but added our evening demand response for both fixed route and paratransit riders. So we're always addressing the equitability thing, that concept. So I really don't feel that we're lacking in that area at all. Again, JCPenney, same thing. We just really want to avoid going into the parking lots. It's just it's a safety issue. And yes, there are not sidewalks that get you from the road to the door of JCPenney. I'm not sure if that's a city issue, a transit issue, or a private property owner issue. So, but that is the case out there. That's all I had in my notes, unless there was something else.
Deborah, thank you. City Council, before I move on to anybody else and their comments, are there any questions maybe for Connie or for Charles or for Deborah on any of the topics we've already covered? And then we can certainly move on to other folks as well. Councilor Jameson.
The Empire Mall, you said it was Transit's decision, or was it the Empire Mall's decision not to have you in their parking lot?
That was our decision, that we'd like to get out of the parking lot.
And just, does the city save money or improve their risk rating if they stay out of those parking lots as far as insurance costs or premiums?
I don't believe so, no.
And the stops that along the way, would a rider be able to ask the bus driver to stop and get let off at any safe spot along the way, or is there only those spots that were designed for stops that are allowed to get
Well,
off?
when you have that situation that's called a flag stop, and our Route 19 is a flag stop where you can stand at any corner and flag the bus down. If there was a situation where snow's piled up or something like that, the bus driver would go to like the nearest driveway or something like that to let the person get off at an easier stop where they can obviously not have all the obstructions or whatever. So.
But if I was riding along and I didn't want to get off at the predetermined stop spot, I wanted to get off somewhere else, would they let me off?
You know, I am not sure about that. Can I ask the
Oh, yeah.
general manager? Go ahead, Randy, come on up.
Sir, welcome. If you just state your name, please.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I'm Randy Hartman, the Assistant General Manager of Sioux Area Metro. All of the routes have designated bus stops. I mean, this is where the bus stops. We do that for safety issues so that we used to have flag stops on all the routes, and we changed that several years ago to have designated stops because time restraints and safety issues, we just couldn't do it. So all of them except for Route 19 do have designated stops, and that is the only place the bus will stop. During the winter weather, if road conditions don't allow us because of windrow or snow or something like that is there, like Deborah said, if it's a designated stop, we'd pull the next safest place to drop that passenger off because it just wouldn't be safe to drop them off where there's a windrow or snow because they wouldn't be able to access the sidewalk. So we'd take them to the nearest driveway or the nearest corner to be able to drop them off there. But otherwise, we'd have designated stops for the new routes. And again, we didn't put that all together, like Deborah said, was because we wanted to make sure this was going to pass before we did that. And then we'd also listen to the public, and we would create designated stops to the best of our ability where the businesses and where the people would be getting on and off. But there's always tweaking that may need to be done once that route is put into service, and it'd be upon the request of any passengers who say, is it possible to put a stop here? And we could definitely look at that and do that. Because our stops are normally 2 to 3 blocks apart. If we need to move one or add a stop, we've done that. Our past history shows that we've done that several times. So.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to speak to the City Council about this particular item, number 27? Yeah, Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Deborah, listening to everything that you've proposed here tonight, there was one thing that really stuck out to me, and that was the bus stop on 49th and Louise there, the Hy-Vee. Now, right now, that bus stop is on 49th Street, and it basically drops off to a sidewalk that takes them right to Hy-Vee. And now we're going to move that to Louise, where they have to go through that entire parking lot to get to Hy-Vee?
What they could do is take the sidewalk from 49th and Louise, because the stop will be very close to the corner, take that same sidewalk down to the front of the Hy-Vee building and then into Hy-Vee. They don't have to go through the parking lot. There is sidewalk there.
How well is that sidewalk cleared off in the wintertime?
I'm not sure. And it's a Hy-Vee, I would
I
think.
hope that's something you
pretty
take a
good.
look at before you make that decision.
Is there? Yes, please come to the podium.
I was just concerned
If
more.
you could just state your name, please.
Carol Jacobs.
Thanks, Carol.
Is the safety of the person riding the bus not as important as a person coming out of the store? I mean, if we got to walk through the parking lot where there's no sidewalks and snow and ice, isn't that more dangerous than taking the extra 15, 20 minutes going through the parking lot and dropping somebody off, whether it's at the grocery store or the mall? I think the safety of people riding the bus with disabilities or not is a concern.
Thank you. Ms. Santee, come on up, please. Or I'm sorry, if we could have the microphone to Charles, please.
I would like to make just one comment about the bus stops on Louise, both for the Empire Mall and Hy-Vee there. The cement slabs associated with the bus stops there are never cleared off during the winter, so you get dropped off and picked up in the driveway. I've had a bus driver tell me after I went down, he offloaded me once at Hy-Vee, he would never do it again because it wasn't safe. He was afraid I would tip over. And you talk about safety. Try waiting for a bus sitting in the middle of a driveway on a Friday afternoon.
Ms. Santee, before you, what are you talking about, please? What particular location?
The bus stop at the gas station for Hy-Vee on Louise, and the Penny's Entrance bus stop.
And could you please explain to the City Council the driveway concept? What does that mean?
They drop the ramp into the driveway, which puts it at a very steep angle, which is in direct violation of ADA for what that's worth. And coming down, it's very easy to jam a foot plate right into the cement. And if you little squirrely on control, that footplate will jam and you can go flipping over.
Thank you, Ms. Santee.
And if you're in a manual chair, if no seat belt, and you hit that where the two angles come together, it could easily toss you out.
Thank you. Councilor Jameson.
Steve, could you switch the map to show that route? Is it 7, Deborah?
No, 3.
3?
We don't have Route 3
Oh.
listed because we don't require approval.
Which route were you talking about, Councilor Anderson, that had the change?
That was just a bus stop I was talking about. I didn't talk
okay.
about a route.
Okay.
Well, these same ones for Route 11.
Deborah, could you try to address Councilor Jameson's question there?
I think I'm going to defer that one to Randy Hartman as well.
Okay, thank you.
If that would be all right.
Thank you. Randy, did you understand Councilor Jameson's question or point? Councilor Jameson, would you repeat that, please?
Maybe on this Route 11, I guess it is. If we're going to defer that later, I guess maybe we don't need to cover it. I was just trying to get to Councilor Anderson's issue and the changes there, but let's focus on maybe what's at hand. And
okay. I could mention, as far as the bus stop on Louise Avenue versus the one on 49th Street, with the proposed changes to routes 10, 11, and 12, which have been amended for now or put on hold for now, that would have to, the stop on 49th Street would have to change because we would no longer travel that 49th Street section right there by Hy-Vee. That's why the stop would have to be moved to Louise Avenue. And again, I believe it's the property owner's responsibility to clean the sidewalk. If the sidewalk is not clear, we have to drop our passengers off at the designated stop where they want to get off. We can't say, I'm sorry, you can't get off here. We're going to take you 3 or 4 blocks down the line and drop you off there. So we do the best we can with what we have. And if the sidewalk's not clear curb to curb, to the curb, then we need to drop them off at the next safest area, which is the driveway. Like I said, I think it's the homeowner's responsibility. We have over 72 bus shelters here in Sioux Falls that we clean every time there's a snowstorm. We have over 700 stops that we clean when we can. But most of the stops are on the corner or at the end of every block, which is you have your curb cuts there. Again, it's the property owner's responsibility to clean that sidewalk, and we'll try to do the best we can to drop them off there. If it's a stop that's in the middle of the block and it doesn't have access to the sidewalk, then we'll go out there in person to clean it ourselves. We'll send utility employees out there to clean that. But again, we have 5 utility employees and over 700 stops. We can't possibly clean all of them. And so some of the responsibility is the homeowners to be able to, or the property owners to clean that sidewalk. It is their responsibility to do that. But we do the best that we can. As far as dropping off a passenger who is in a wheelchair at a driveway, yes, we do have to do that at times. And yes, Louise Avenue and the Empire Mall driveway is a very good example that we have to do that, but that's the only place we can do that. There is no lip at the end of the ramp as suggested, that the flap that comes down, because all of our new buses, the low floors, the brand new ones and the older ones, have they kneel. The front right corner of that bus will kneel down, so where that bus is approximately 6 inches off the curb. If you can't get to the curb, it's probably close to a foot. And then the ramp comes down and kneels to the bus, or goes out. So there is no raising or lowering it. It's a ramp that they go up and down. If it's too steep, yeah, it could be difficult for a person in a wheelchair that might get stuck there, but then the driver assists them to get them off the ramp and closer to their destination or to the sidewalk. And our drivers are aware of that, so we do that.
Reg, have you had any experience in other communities other than Sioux Falls?
No. I've been with Sioux Area Metro since 1991. I was a driver for over 12 and a half years, a trainer for most of that time period, training new employees and stuff. Worked with Kenny for a while with paratransit, and I was in fixed route. But a lot of experience here in Sioux Falls with the public transit system. I think it's a great system. I think we do the best we can with what we have financially. We're trying to create a better service for the people, all the people, not just a couple of people, but to create a good service for everyone, where we can expand service to the Target and to the Kohl's on the east side of town. We're looking at pulling out of Lowe's, yes, because when we can expand the route someplace else and cover more area, where instead of one person, we might have several. There's been a demand for service up in north of southeast area of OTEC with the new housing up there. I've gotten many calls from Roosevelt High School requesting some type of service out there because they have 20 to 30 to 40 some students that can't get on the bus because we don't have one out there. And the only way we can get them service is if we look at routes 10, 11, and 12 and make the adjustments needed so we have the financials to be able to do that. If we don't do that, we can't provide service to the 20, 30, or 40 kids, and instead we provide service for the 1 or 2 people going to behavioral health or anyplace else. But again, that's been on hold. But I just wanted to get the point across. There's a lot more to this than a lot of people see. We worked very hard at this for the past several months. We involved citizens. We involved passengers who ride our buses frequently. We involved drivers. We worked very hard to create the changes that we want to try to better the service for everyone in the community. So, just
Councilor
wanted
Jameson.
to say that.
I know it does take a lot of work to make these routes, and you guys have worked hard. Just from your experience, the grid system, the grid option of doing a route, you're not going to be able to please everybody no matter what you do, however you do it. But do you personally have any insight on the grid system? I mean, if we just had a pattern that we just drove, and the pattern was always the pattern, and would that be better than the spoke system type version? Because it just seems like you never stop where somebody else wants you to stop.
As the city grows, I think, yes. I think this would be a good city to plan that on because we have a lot of major streets going east and west and north and south. Probably more north and south than east and west because we have 26th Street and only goes so far, and we have 12th Street and 41st Street, and that's it going west past Kiwanis Avenue. But as far as north and south, yes, we do, and I think it's possible to have a grid system. I think we'd have to spend a lot of time in making sure that the buses are crossing at the same time so people can transfer without having to come downtown and transfer. So is it possible? Yeah, I think it is. I think it's a good city to be able to do that. We do have a lot of streets that go straight through the city and stay on the main drags, which are most of our emergency snow routes. And to be able to work with that, we wouldn't have to change the route at all during the winter in most cases. It would stay the same throughout the entire year. So I think it's a possibility.
Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to speak to the City Council about this particular item tonight? Well, thank you. It's been a very good dialogue. Would there be anyone on the council who'd like to address this item at all with a motion?
I'd like to move approval of the resolution as stated, with the amendment taking routes 10, 11, and 12 off the table for now.
Second that, Anderson.
Councilor Anderson and Councilor Urbanbach, Denise has recommended that we make the motion before we make the amendment. Is that appropriate, or is Councilor Urbanbach making
point of order? We have two versions of this resolution. I want to choose the resolution version that does not have 10, 11, and 12 in it.
We needed the main motion to approve it as is presented, and then you can...
We have it presented two different ways, though. Can't I just choose that, make that the...
Without the amendment, it's adopted. Councilor Urbanbach is making a motion that is just that already has the recommended changes to it, so that we don't have to make an amendment.
It's Resolution 1784A on the documents that came with the agenda.
This will be the main motion, what Councilor Urbanbach has stated. And it was seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr.
Where's that? These are online. Yes, it's all online. This is the amended version right here. And this is online. It's on Sire right now.
This is...
Yeah, same list.
There has been a motion made by Councilor Urbanbach. It was seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. And Denise, would you mind reading the motion that was made by Councilor Urbanbach as best you can?
I would defer, if I may, sir, to have Councilor Urbanbach repeat her motion.
Councilor Urbanbach, would you please just repeat your motion, please?
Do you want me to read the resolution as it's written on the materials that came with the agenda? Is that what you're saying? It's a resolution approving the transit route modifications. And I would just say that our motion is that we are approving transit route modifications to routes 2, 4, 8, and 19 only. And that is what the resolution says.
There has been a motion, and it was seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. City Council, would anybody like to comment on this particular motion? Councilor Urbanbach.
I just, I appreciate the conversation that we've been in over the past couple of weeks regarding this. The folks who you've heard this evening have been studying this and living this for a long period of time in Sioux Falls. And so one of the things that's important for us to understand is that this is an ongoing conversation, and we're going to table those ideas for routes 10, 11, and 12 so that we can continue to talk about those. But I'd like to see those sit on the table for a while. I would like to see Route 12 sit on the table for a while. I think people that have understood now that we're not necessarily running that route the way that it should be run, that perhaps we need to market it better, perhaps we need to let people know that it's there. But I support the changes that have been made to these routes as outlined in the resolution.
Could we have a vote on the motion as proposed by Councilor Urbanbach, seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr.?
Councilors Jamison?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Urbanbach?
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 7-0. Item number 28.
A resolution amending the 2011-2015 capital program to add funding for energy-efficient projects to public parking.
Matt Nelson, the Public Parking Department with the City of Sioux Falls. What we're asking for is to approve funding or allocate funding in the budget in our CIP program to do some upgrades of lighting in 2 of our ramps. The money that would be used is from the EECBG grant. It would be federal funds. This is not, we're not asking for new money or general funds or more taxes. We're just asking to allow for us to use those funds for this project instead. These funds are, or these projects are ready to go at this point. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. What we would be doing would be the 8th and Dakota parking ramp and the First Avenue parking ramp. The First Avenue is the one near the bus stop downtown. What we would do is go from a high-pressure sodium type bulb to an LED fixture. In the picture, you'll see the difference in lighting. We're going to get some very unique advantages, one being the energy savings on an annual basis. 2 would be a security increase because of the lighting, the spectrum that LED lights put off. It's a drastic difference, and you can see that from the pictures, and those will be our 2 biggest gains. We'll also see a reduction in labor costs because the maintenance on LED fixtures is significantly lower than the high-pressure sodiums, not requiring the relamps, the changing of bulbs, or the dimming of the light on a non-consistent basis. Walker parking has been used to study both of these ramps. They've gone in and done analysis on both ramps and looked at different options. The shaded options are the ones that we would like to proceed with. At the 8th and Dakota ramp would be an LED fixture. It'd be a 1-for-1 exchange. You can see the initial cost to do that. They are very expensive fixtures to put in, but the cost, you'll see the annual energy cost and the savings per year is about $9,000 per year. But the bigger savings are on the 20-year life cycle cost, where we don't have the labor to have an electrician come in with a lift to change a light bulb, people cleaning fixtures on an annual, if not biannual basis, just from the debris to keep that lighting level consistent. The First Avenue ramp, we would actually add fixtures, and we would go from 180 to 280 fixtures. And the biggest thing here, the cost justification would be in the life cycle cost, are significantly reduced. We would also save in the energy cost. And the biggest gain, I think, for the users of that ramp, and that's our most heavily used public ramp by the public. It's open to the public on nights and weekends. It would be the level of service of the lighting. Currently, when they looked at it, they said that is a borderline FD type lighting because it's very poor in that ramp. When we would upgrade to the additional fixtures, we would go to above a C, which would be expected for a parking ramp, with a vast improvement in the spectrum and quality of light in that ramp.
Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to this? Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to this item? City Council, any commentary? Councilor Aguilar.
I move approval.
Second, Anderson.
Councilor Aguilar has made a motion to approve item number 28. It was seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. Is there any further discussion? If we could have a vote, please.
Councilors Jamison?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed unanimously. Item number 30.
Request received from Doug Hendricks dated February 1st, 2011, regarding the placement of a retail liquor license from the official city list pursuant to City Ordinance Section 5-2-14, requesting to extend the deadline for the conditional use permit application based on pending litigation.
Lori.
Lori Hogstead with the City Attorney's Office. This request was received based on a few items that happen with liquor licensing. We have renewals each year, and the renewals for the year 2011, which happened this past November, December, we did have one establishment that did not renew, and that was for the Timber Lodge Steakhouse on 41st Street. It could not renew. They could not renew at that location because they were no longer the lessee or owner of the property, which is required by state law. They did make attempts to sell the license, and those attempts did not happen. As a result, as of 12/31, the license came back to the city. And what we do next, and this is the first time actually in all the years that I've worked with this that this has happened, and possibly as far as I know that it has ever happened, but what we would do with any new license is we would go to our official list, and that list was created in 2006 based on a city ordinance due to the number of people that were interested in our retail liquor licenses. The first name on that list was Doug Hendricks. I contacted Doug, and he either had the option to accept the license or to not accept it, and if he did not accept it, then he would be moved to the end of the list or could be taken off if he so chose. And to be on the official list, it's a $1,500 non-refundable fee that they pay. So it's people that are serious about wanting a retail liquor license. So Doug accepted the license, and the first step in that acceptance is that within 45 days, the applicant must make application for a conditional use permit to place that license at a specific location. That is where the request came in. He is requesting an extension of that 45-day time period, and then it goes on to say that the license conditional use permit has to be completed within a 90-day time period. And if those deadlines cannot be met, then the applicant either requests an extension from the City Council or the Planning Commission. In this case, it wasn't appropriate to go to the Planning Commission because they had not even been to that level yet. And as a result, the request has come before the City Council, and the request is based on pending litigation, and they are requesting an extension until such time as that litigation is resolved, if that's the correct word. And we do have the applicant here as well as his attorney, if you have questions for him, and I can certainly answer questions as well.
Councilor Brown, before we go, is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to this item? Councilor Brown.
Lori, have we, there's a letter from Mr. Hendricks to Attorney Fifley indicating that we've offered an extension before?
Well, there was a situation, it was probably in 2006, where we did have, the lawsuit had been filed, and we did have another individual that asked for an extension. At that time, the ruling from the City Attorney's Office was that the Attorney's Office could grant that extension. That extension was granted, but it was for a very short period of time, and it was to actually Greg Peterson. And it ended up to be a very short extension because he partnered with the owners of Craven, which is going to be at 74th and Connie, opening next week, I believe. And he partnered with that particular business and no longer needed the extension. And in this case, when I reviewed it with City Attorney Dave Fifley, in looking at the wording on the ordinance, it did state that that ruling needed to come from the Planning Commission or City Council.
Question for the city attorney, if I may. It could be a long time, I assume, before that the RIC law versus City of Sioux Falls is resolved?
If I may, Mayor?
Please, yeah.
Yeah, Councilor Brown, the city filed its notice of appeal to the state Supreme Court on that case on January 31st of this year. It's been my experience you could expect a Supreme Court appeal to last anywhere from 8 to 12 months, and I can't give you any further guarantee on when that whole litigation may be resolved. So this continuance request could be for that time frame. If I'm assuming that's the litigation that they're asking the request for.
Lori, do you know if that's the litigation they're asking the request for?
That is indeed the one.
That's according to the letter here that was sent to the city attorney.
Correct.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Aguilar.
Lori, how many people are on the waiting list?
Well, we have the official list. It started with 23 names, and now we have, after this one, 12 names on the list. And just as a side note, we will be receiving additional licenses based on our 2010 census once we get those numbers certified by the State Revenue Department. So those will be coming up within the next month or so.
Within the next month or so?
Well, I believe, once we get that letter from the Census Bureau through the planning office, and then we certify, and that just takes a couple days. So then that process will begin by contacting the people on the list.
Councilor Aguilar.
Do we know how many more licenses we're going to be able to?
According to my calculations, which we use a formula through state law, my calculations would be 9 more, and that is something that the state will look at and just certify and verify that is the correct number, how many we actually have issued, how many we're waiting to issue, and how many we're allowed to issue. So they will review all those numbers to make sure that that is accurate.
Councilor Anderson, Jr.
I believe that the claimants are the person that's asking for this extension's attorneys here.
Yes.
Could we have him come up? I believe he wanted to say something earlier.
Mr. Brendy, welcome. Welcome.
Good evening. It's 9 o'clock and I'm number 30, and number 30 is the last item.
Yes, sir.
So that's some good news. I had written down a few things that I wanted to share with you, representing Doug Hendricks. And Lori and I have talked several times over the last few days, and apparently we think alike because she said just about everything that I wanted to say. Some time ago, City Attorney Amundsen granted an extension to Greg Peterson. I represent Craven, who partnered with Mr. Peterson to build the bar down on South Louise, which will open next Monday. You're all invited. We now have a situation, as Lori explained, which has never happened before. Greg Peterson, the Craven people, anyone in this situation would like to plan to, number one, invest about $1/6 in a liquor license, a piece of paper that says on sale liquor, and to either buy or lease an expensive piece of property to build a facility that can compete in these harder economic times. Some of you are in the retail business and know the huge expense of doing the furniture, fixtures, and equipment, what we call the FF&E, for a locality that serves food, liquor, has lottery, and entertainment. Because you have to do a good job now to invest the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in most cases in which I've been involved, 2 commas in the number, to put the deal together to make economic sense and to compete. As Lori explained to you and as I appeal to you now, this wasn't expected for Doug Hendricks or the next person on the list or the next or the next. This is not a $1,500 investment. It's $1 million investment. I skipped the notes. Doug has had realtors looking, but we didn't expect that this would happen and that someone would forfeit a liquor license worth 6 figures. We didn't expect that that the what I call the lawsuit would be decided now, but the earliest that we expected to have to make this decision was July. Lori and I have visited more than one occasion. The last 9 years, we've talked about the increase of population in Sioux Falls as being applicable in the summer of the year in which that increase was realized. We're not talking the summer in July. And then we're not talking about adding 45 days after July to make your application to the Planning Commission, and then 45 more days, or 90 days total, to bring it to fruition. That puts July into October. We're talking now about Doug having to make $1 million decision at the drop of a hat. You don't go out and buy a building in February for something you expected to happen in October. And I think that this unprecedented move by the Timber Lodge shouldn't work to the detriment of my client, who put up his money, got on the list, and waited like any other reasonable business person, expecting that July would be what he would call the drop-dead date. And now all of a sudden, we're in February. And he's called upon to rush into a huge economic investment. Granted, if you have all, and I'm sure you have, looked at the city map that has the 2,000-foot circles on it, I'm sure you've all seen it. There are very, very few places where an investment of this type can be made, and made intellectually. What we're asking is to be treated no differently than anyone else who have called upon to make the decision as to whether or not they want to spend $1 million to plan for. I can say a lot of things, but it's a horrible death to be talked to death. I'm willing to answer any questions that you can ask of me, but they're probably best answered by Doug, who's in the back row here. And he's serious. He loves Sioux Falls. He wants to do business in Sioux Falls. He just doesn't want to get rushed into something that none of you would like to be rushed into.
Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Sort of a question on the procedure here.
Mr. Brandy, first of all, thank you.
And Mr. Brandy, you all may want to answer this. I'm not sure.
You'll just stay. We may need you.
Right now, the procedure is that his client is number one on the list of 12 people who are interested in purchasing a liquor license.
Correct.
And that if he doesn't accept this one, that he has to be moved to the bottom of the list.
That's correct. He could ask to be moved to the end of the list or taken off. But normally people would want to be moved to the end of the list.
Now, since this is such an unusual case, and it's the first time that, according to yourself and everyone else here, that this has happened, couldn't we look at other options of, like, leaving the list the way it is, offering that license down the list until someone takes it, and then when the new liquor licenses come out, then we readdress the list? But I think we're, with this situation that we have, it is very unique, and I guess that's what I'm questioning, is why we can't just look at it in that situation.
We can't, because we have to offer, by ordinance, we have to offer it to the first person on the list. They need to say yes or no. Not maybe, if nobody else wants it, then go down the list and see if someone else would. I'm required to follow the procedures as outlined in ordinance, which is to contact the first person on the list, and they tell me yes or no.
And that ordinance says whether it's a new license or a license that was abandoned?
I don't think it's specifically, it's just licenses available in the City of Sioux Falls. I don't believe the wording. I'd have to look at that again to see if it specifically says new licenses issued based on the census, or, in this case, a license that came back to the city.
Lori, item number 30, the last line, it says requesting to extend the deadline for the conditional use permit application based on pending litigation. In 20 words or less, just again, explain to the city council what that means.
Well, what that means is that the applicant, obviously the reason for waiting for the pending litigation is because of video lottery. If there wasn't video lottery involved, it really wouldn't be an issue, but there's restrictions on where video lottery can go, and that's what the lawsuit pertains to. And so that's why they're requesting an extension.
So in layman's terms, the way it is written is that Mr. Hendricks is basically just asking for more time to make the ultimate decision, yay or nay, on this license. And he'd like that time to be after the litigation has been has been what the final decision on the litigation is going to be.
That's correct. That's correct.
Councilor Anderson, Jr.?
But it goes that step further also. Yes, this is a video lottery issue, but we're looking at getting new licenses in July. So now there's going to be a whole list of people who are going to be in that same boat. And I guess if we're going to look at putting this on hold, I would only suggest we put it on hold until those new licenses come out. Because once again, then everyone else on that list is going to be in the same situation, correct?
Probably.
Because we're going to be looking at a bigger issue then.
And it could be sooner than July. Normally, those census numbers come out on the last day of June of each year. But this particular deennial census, the 10-year census, this time they did come out earlier. And so it probably will be before July that we'll have those, licenses available to offer. But you're right, there could be others on the list that ask for the same thing.
And the reason they would ask it is because they would want to purchase it if they could have a video lottery license.
That could very well be.
Okay. Councilor Brown.
The rules haven't changed on this. We set the rules up as a council. Everyone knew the rules. Everyone knew you had 45 days to make a decision. We knew there would be more licenses available because of the growth in Sioux Falls. And there's a pent-up demand for these, and it's in the city's best interest to get those licenses in operation. We can't change the rules now.
Councilor Jameson.
Could you tell us who else is on the list?
I sure can. Next on the list is Jim Entenman. Then we have...
Sorry. That's fine.
Yes, he's next. Then we have Lloyd Solberg and or Jane Solberg. Again, they are currently have accepted a license and are waiting to purchase it based on a 2-year time frame, and that's another discussion and a possible ordinance amendment for another day. Next is Sean Doherty. Then we have Jenna Tervier, then Dan Greider Jr., Ted Toms, Doug Hendricks comes up again, Keith McGuire, Larry Lang, Mike Walls, Keith and Pam Mirmo, and James Jacobson.
Could you tell me what number Mr. Hendricks is again?
He is again, well, right now, we'll say he's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, number 8.
So I would suspect that once the new licenses come out, they'll be right up again and able to get it. So there's a slight delay that would be afforded to them without any action.
Yeah, he'll probably, if the number 9 is accurate, and I feel pretty confident it's accurate as far as how many we will receive, then, he would be offered another one once we get our census numbers certified.
And there's a good chance that some of those, like has happened in the past, they'll just fall off the list because they're not ready to pull the trigger, we've heard. And so we could really, in the end, be sitting with several licenses available for the very next. We could,
I think that would be a real strong possibility.
Yeah.
Lori, how do you market the fact that a prospect is number 1 or number 8 on the list? How does a applicant or a prospect keep up to date on that?
Well, they can call me at any time. I talk to a number of applicants, not only these on the list, but a number all the time, and they'll ask me about the list. I guess it hasn't generated all that much interest. The people that initially were on the list, it generated a great deal of interest at that time because we were so short on licenses. But, now there is the restaurant retail liquor license available. However, there's no interest in that due to a number of things. I think the price is one of them. So there are other options if a business is specifically a restaurant. But, it's not, I really don't talk about the list. I will tell you, though, that I did furnish the list to Timber Lodge along with phone numbers, contact numbers for every person on the list. And apparently they went down the list and made phone calls and said they had no interest in the license. I can't verify that that's the case, but that's what they had told me.
Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to the City Council about this particular topic before I ask them to move forward? City Council. Councilor Litz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just think this is a very unique and unusual circumstance that, he's kind of caught sideways in, and I understand the situation, and I also think that Mr. Arlie Brendy is way past getting down to work release. So with that in mind, I'd like to make a motion to approve this.
Second, Erpenbach.
Councilor Litz has made a motion to approve item number 30 as read. It was seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. Is there any discussion on this item? Yes, Councilor Rolfing.
Mr. Hendricks, do you want to defend yourself or say anything? I'm especially interested in why this is tied to the pending litigation rather than Mr. Brendy tied everything to being able to find a location rather than, and then the ordinance or the request is for the video lottery, or basically the pending litigation, which has to do with the video lottery, and they seem to be dichotomy. Which one really is it? Is finding a location, or is it the pending litigation?
First off, Mr. Rolfing, I'm sorry. Yeah, first off, I wasn't anticipating this license out of the blue, and I thought it'd be sometime this fall, and this courtesy had been extended. I wasn't sure if it was 2006, or I knew that courtesy had been extended previously, and so that was my request. Based on the fact that it had been done before. And as far as how many licenses are going to be available and when they're going to be available, up until tonight, or just a few minutes ago, I didn't know that they would be before July or how many there were going to be.
Mr. Enders, I think Mr. Rolfing.
Did I answer your question? Or, no. I'm sorry.
What I'm saying here, Doug, is that
Okay.
You're coming and saying I wasn't ready for this, and that's fine.
Okay.
But I don't have time to find property and to get things going, and I understand completely about being able to find location, and things like that. I don't have a problem with that. But what you're asking us to do is to tie the amount of time you have to the pending litigation, which could be 9 months to a year. It will not take you 9 months to a year to find a proper location.
Yeah, I'll go back to, I was basing that on the courtesy that was extended to a previous applicant. Had they not gone into partnership with somebody, that would still be in effect. So that's...
Can you help me with that, Lori?
I think what he's trying to ask you is, it has to be a video lottery, yes or no? I mean, you're looking at video lottery, otherwise you wouldn't be worried about the distancing.
Yeah, because see, you can't tie the two together. This is a liquor license, this is not a video lottery license.
Yeah. You're asking for the extension based on the fact that we're waiting for results on the lawsuit.
Yeah, the last
one, a video lottery.
You know, and I wouldn't want to take that out of the equation.
Okay, well...
That potential out of the equation, correct.
So
yes.
you're saying that it's critical that you have video lottery in your game plan, in your business plan, not just the liquor license?
Well, it may or may not, depending on the result of that litigation.
Then my contention would be then that you should have, if we could grant you an extension, it would be the 45 or 90 days.
That already exists.
That already exists, and that should give you ample time to find location, rather than the amount of time that it may take the 9 months or a year for the Supreme Court to rule on this.
So in effect, you're saying no extension?
If it's going to be tied to the video lottery, correct. The two don't match up. You're asking for a liquor license, which is what we've.
I guess my contention would be is that had Mr. Peterson not done, I mean, his extension would still be in effect, and I was basing it on
And
that.
our former chief counsel or whatever city attorney did that without council approval. So let's kind of put that off to the side. Right. Whether or not that was the correct procedure or not, we'll look at maybe. But it wasn't done maybe the proper way. But this is being done the proper way.
So it seemed like a logical way, since it had been done previously that way.
Two rights don't make a wrong, or two wrongs don't make a right. So we're looking at it maybe that way.
Should I change it to? I don't know. I knew I was first on the list. I knew that it'd be sometime in July. And then
but it seems to me that,
I've
been in the restaurant business, as you know, and I would much rather prefer opening up in July than I would in January. If you get the liquor license in July, it's going to take you 3 to 5 months to get ready and ramped up, which means you're going to open in January. I'd rather get the license now, be ready to go in January or in July when it's hot and people are going to buy drinks.
Well, I don't. That's an opinion.
Okay. Anyway, if with the way it's written right now, I don't think I can support it because of the way it's tied to the video lottery.
I tied it to Mr. Rolfing. I tied it to that because of like I said, the previous courtesy.
Right.
Now, if we could.
And that courtesy I could give for the liquor license alone, but not for the length of the video lottery. So,
Councilor Rolfing, thank you.
Thank you.
City Council, yes, Councilor Jamison.
Lori, if we wanted to just return this back to the top of the list, let the applicant decide if he wants to go to the back of the list,
Mhm.
which he would be like number 8 and number 13 or something. I mean, you guys are going to
Correct.
get a license if you want it. And we just approve that portion, remove the extension. Would that be the proper way to?
Well, you could just deny the extension, and then he would have to comply with that 45 and 90-day
Okay.
time period. I would say probably from this date forward, just,
Okay.
because that would give him the opportunity to know that he had to pursue it, but give him that chance, and if he doesn't meet that time period, then yes, he would get moved to the end of the list.
So if we deny this tonight, all we're doing is denying the extension.
Right.
He'll still follow the 45
He
days.
still has the opportunity to place that license.
Very good.
May I make one final comment?
Yes, Councilor Jameson? Yes, Mr. Brendy?
I know we have rules, and I know rules are to be followed. You have rules for a flood. Floods happen in the spring. If you get a flood in December, you say, what do we do now? Well, what we have here is a flood in February when every person on that list was anticipating that their name would get called 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. I didn't think it was going to be that many. And no one guarantees that Doug gets on the list again if he passes now. But no one with this quirk of fact, never happened before, should be forced to say, you know, you should have had your realtors looking for a spot here in January or February for July or August or September. But you should have them looking now, because who knows, maybe some dummy will not sell his liquor license and it'll just pop up. So here, Doug, I tell you what, you better scramble and you better make all your realtors work real hard, and you better find a place where, if you're going to spend the money, don't spend the extra $300,000-$400,000 to have the potential video lottery, because you don't know. So we're putting him at risk for all of this because some fool didn't renew or sell their liquor license. And I don't think that's fair to Doug. It wouldn't be fair to you if you were opening and you said, oh, by the way, Mr. Augustin in 1971? Oh, sorry. You better get ready to open now. You don't have the opportunity to look until July because it's your number. And that's not fair to Doug. I don't care about the video lottery. It's not fair. And I don't think you can say, well, let's just say, well, there's probably going to be 7 or 8, so he'll get back on the list again. That's not fair. That's the law says it's not fair. And you're here to be fair.
Mr. Brandy, can I ask a question?
Yes, Councilor Aguilar.
Does Mr. Hendricks actually want 2 licenses? Because I understand he's number 1 and number 8 on the list.
It's sort of like some guy who lives in Dallas who owns a basketball team, and then he wants to own a baseball team, then he wants to own a hockey team. Yes, he does.
So he's looking at opening 2 different establishments.
He might open more than that if he had the opportunity. If you're a good business person and you have a chance to plan, then maybe you can have 2 or 3 or 4 restaurants or 2 or 3 sports teams. It's America. And I don't think it's fair that you say, well, you know, you might get on the list here in July anyway, or surprise, surprise, hurry up.
There has been a motion made by Councilor Litz. It was seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. Is there any further discussion with the City Council?
I'd like to make a substitute motion.
Councilor Anderson Jr. would like to make a substitute motion?
After speaking to the city attorney, I would like to give our attorney's office a little time to take a look at this situation that we're in right now. I'd like to make a substitute motion that we defer this item till March 14th to give him a little time to take a look at this.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a...
Second, Aguilar.
Okay. It has been Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to defer this item to March 14th, 2011. It was seconded by Councilor Aguilar. Any discussion on that particular item? Councilor Litz.
Just point of order, can I recall my previous motion then, so we don't have to vote on that, or can I take it back? Or will the substitute motion take the place of that? So okay, very good, then. Yeah.
There is a substitute motion that's been placed in front of the City Council. It has been seconded. Any further discussion on the substitute? Yes. David?
Thank you, Mayor. I would request an amendment to the substitute motion that the deadline be extended, or the clock start, from the March 14th timeframe, so that everything is in abeyance, so no clock is ticking until after a decision's made on the 14th.
Okay, with my substitute motion, I would like to put this item in a pending situation until the decision's made on the March 14th by the City Council.
David, are we amending the substitute motion?
We're amending the substitute motion. Roberts is getting a good workout tonight.
Very good. Is there a second?
Second, Aguilar.
There's been a second to amend the substitute motion that was made by Councilor Anderson Jr. Councilor Aguilar seconded that. Is there any discussion on the amendment to the substitute motion? Here none, can we vote on the amendment to the substitute motion, which is basically starting the clock at a later date, which is March 14th?
Correct.
Councilors Jameson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
No.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
That is passed 6-1. We now have an amended substitute motion. Is there any discussion on that? Could we have a vote on that, please?
Councilors Jameson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
No.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
That is passed 6-1. City Council, are there any other items that you'd like to discuss tonight before we adjourn tonight's meeting?
Move to adjourn, Anderson.
Before I leave, I want to, number one, thank you for your
Mr. Brendy,
consideration.
Thank you so much.
And I think I'm off work release now.
Thank you. There has been a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I think Councilman Jameson
I'm
wanted
sorry,
to say something.
Councilor Jameson?
I just couldn't pass the moment of the last comment about Bob Litz, his last council meeting.
Yeah.
Causing trouble all the way till the end. Bob, smooth sailing for you in the future.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Good luck, Bob.
Good luck.
We'll stay in touch.
I'm sure of that.
Bob, would you like to make a second motion to adjourn?
You mean to second it?
The second final motion?
No, I don't think so. This is okay. So
I need a second.
Second the motion.
Councilor Litz did second the motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There has been a motion by Councilor Anderson Jr., and it was seconded by Councilor Litz to adjourn the final City Council meeting of at least this term of Councilor Bob Litz. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we will vote.
Councilors Jameson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
The final meeting of Councilor Bob Litz on Tuesday, February 22nd, 2011, has been adjourned. Thank you, City of Sioux Falls.